I can't sit down, teacher. It hurts too much. My father is to blame. Amara's cries of pain echoed down the hallway of Lincoln School as she writhed, clutching her back with tears streaming down her face. Teacher Williams stopped immediately, her eyes widening at the sight of the 12-year-old black girl clearly in agony. But what really caught her attention wasn't just the child's pain. It was the opportunity that flashed in her eyes for a split second. Denise Williams had been transferred to that suburban school after incidents at her former private institution. No one spoke openly about the reasons, but the whispers followed her like shadows. Now, faced with a situation that could finally validate her suspicions about those families, she saw her golden opportunity. Amara, sweetie, tell me exactly what happened, Williams said with theatrical concern, crouching down to the girl's height. Her eyes, however, already gleamed with something very different from maternal compassion. Amara Thompson was an exceptional girl. At 12, she had already skipped 2 grades due to her extraordinary intelligence, and her parents, an aerospace engineer and a pediatrician, had always encouraged her to question everything around her. She had noticed Williams's glances, the whispered comments, the way the teacher always coincidentally found more mistakes in black students' work. My father. He made me do something that hurt a lot, Amara murmured between calculated sobs, watching the teacher's reaction closely. What Williams didn't know was that every word, every facial expression, every moment of that conversation was being recorded by the smartwatch Amara wore, a birthday gift she had learned to use in ways her parents would never imagine. The teacher leaned in closer, her eyes now practically glowing with morbid satisfaction. Go on, dear. You can tell me everything. The teacher is here to protect you from these people. There in that empty hallway, while pretending to be a helpless victim, Amara kept a secret too powerful to be revealed before the right time. If this story of injustice and intelligence touched you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to find out how a simple 12-year-old girl would turn her teacher's prejudice into the greatest lesson in humility that American education has ever witnessed. Williams felt a wave of satisfaction wash over her. Finally, after months of observing the perfect Thompson family, with their expensive clothes, imported car, and the quiet arrogance of those who thought they were better than others, she had the ammunition she needed. Let's talk in my office, sweetie, Williams whispered, placing her hand on Amara's shoulder with a false gentleness that made the girl's stomach churn. There, you can tell me everything without fear. As they walked down the hall, Williams was already mentally planning the phone calls she would make. Social services, the police, maybe even some contacts in the local press. She imagined the headlines, "Elite Family Hides Dark Secrets," or "Behind the Facade, When Success Masks Horror." What she didn't know was that Amara Thompson had spent the last 6 months documenting every racist comment, every look of contempt, every unfairly lowered grade. The girl had learned from her parents that systematic injustices required systematic evidence. Sit here, sweetheart, Williams said, closing the living room door and turning on a small tabletop recorder. Now tell me, what exactly did your father do to you? You can speak without fear, Auntie will protect you. Amara looked at the tape recorder and smiled inwardly. Perfect. 2 recordings of the same event, from different angles. He forced me into a very painful position, she murmured, letting genuine tears flow, not from physical pain, but from the anger accumulated from months of disguised racism. William's eyes gleamed like those of a predator who had just located its prey. What kind of position, sweetheart? Can you draw it for me if it's easier? He made me stay on all fours for a long time, Amara continued, watching as the teacher's breathing quickened. It hurt a lot back here. He said it was for my own good, but I didn't want to continue. Williams could barely contain her excitement. This would be her revenge against that family that always made her feel inferior, always with their academic achievements, always reminding her of her own mediocrity. And your mother? Where was she when this happened? Mom was working. She's always working, Amara replied with calculated sadness. Dad said it was our special secret, that I shouldn't tell anyone. The teacher stood up abruptly, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. My dear, what I'm about to tell you is very important. Some families, especially those families who think they're superior, they think they can do anything because they have money. Amara tilted her head, pretending not to understand. What kind of families, Ms. Williams? You know, Williams hesitated for a moment, then decided to be more direct. Families like yours. Who came from nothing and now think they own the world. Who think their daughters are untouchable princesses, but in reality, The classroom door suddenly opened. It was Dr. Martinez, the school principal, accompanied by a woman Amara didn't recognize. A social services investigator Williams had called during recess. "Ms. Williams, I need to talk to you," Martinez said gravely. "And you must be Amara. Your mother is on her way." Williams smiled with venomous satisfaction. "Dr. Martinez, I'm glad you're here. We've just discovered a very serious situation involving the Thompson family. This child is being abused by her own father." The investigator approached Amara professionally, but the girl could see the doubt in her eyes. "Amara, can you tell me what happened? In your own words." That's when Amara decided to strike first. "Yes, I can. But first, can I ask why Teacher Williams said that families like mine think they own the world? What did she mean by families like mine?" The silence in the room was deafening. Williams paled, realizing she had revealed more than she intended. I didn't say that. You're confusing things, dear." "It's all recorded," Amara said calmly, tapping her smartwatch. "Both the conversation about my father and your comments about my family." Dr. Martinez frowned. "Recorded? Ms. Williams, did you make inappropriate comments about a student's family?" Williams tried to regain control of the situation. "Dr. Martinez, don't be fooled by this manipulative child. She is clearly trying to divert attention from the abuse she has suffered." But Amara had planted the necessary seed of doubt. Now it was just a matter of time and patience. Every word Williams said from that moment on would be another rope in the noose around her own career. While they waited for her parents to arrive, Amara maintained the expression of a frightened victim, but inside she felt a cold satisfaction. Williams had completely underestimated who she was dealing with. The teacher was so blinded by prejudice that she couldn't see she was walking straight into a trap set by a 12-year-old mind that already thought like a strategist. What Williams didn't know was that in the next few minutes she would discover that messing with the wrong family could turn a simple misunderstanding into the complete destruction of a career built on pillars of racism and incompetence disguised as pedagogical concern. The door to the room opened again, this time revealing Dr. Robert Thompson, an impeccably dressed black man whose imposing bearing made Williams instinctively step back. At his side, Dr. Patricia Thompson, her lab coat still on over her clothes, had in her eyes the perfect mixture of maternal concern and professional coldness of someone who saves lives every day. "Where is my daughter?" Patricia's voice cut through the air like a surgical blade. Her eyes scanned the room, cataloging each person present with the precision of someone accustomed to quickly diagnosing problems. Williams suddenly felt smaller in front of that couple. It was exactly what had always bothered her about the Thompson family. That natural confidence, that way of occupying space as if they belonged there. Dr. Thompson, she stammered, trying to regain control. "I'm so glad you're here. I have some very serious news about your daughter." "Mommy. Daddy." Amara ran into her parents' arms, but her embrace was calculatedly dramatic. She whispered something in her father's ear that made his eyes narrow dangerously. Dr. Martinez watched the scene with growing discomfort. "Professor Williams, before we proceed, I need to understand exactly what you said to Amara about families like hers." Williams felt her blood run cold. "Dr. Martinez, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. The important thing now is to protect this child from the toxic environment in which she lives." That was when Robert Thompson stepped forward, his voice reverberating through the room with the authority of someone who commands teams of NASA engineers. "Toxic environment? Ma'am, I've been a chief space project engineer for 15 years. My wife has been saving children's lives for even longer. What kind of toxic environment exactly are you suggesting?" The social services investigator, who had been silent until then, frowned. "Professor Williams, your allegations are extremely serious. I need to see concrete evidence or I will have to stop this investigation immediately." "The evidence is in the child herself." Williams exploded, completely losing her composure. She confessed that her father forced her into painful positions. That she was hurt. These families think they can do anything just because they have money. The ensuing silence was broken by laughter. Clear, intelligent, and completely unexpected laughter, coming from Amara. "Daddy," said the girl, looking directly at Williams with a maturity that made the teacher take a step back. "Can I show everyone what you really think of our family?" Robert Thompson smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Yes, you can, my daughter. Show them everything. Amara activated her smartwatch and William's voice echoed through the room. Families like yours, who came from nothing and now think they own the world, who think their daughters are untouchable princesses, but in reality. Williams turned pale. That's out of context. You don't understand. There's more, Amara said calmly, moving on to another recording. The teacher's voice sounded again, especially those families who think they're superior. They think they can do anything because they have money. Dr. Martinez had stopped breathing. The social investigator furiously took notes in her notebook. But Amara wasn't done yet. Mom, Dad, do you want to know why I really had back pain? The girl smiled with an innocence that everyone now realized was completely calculated. Yesterday we spent 5 hours in Dad's lab building a model rocket for the science fair. The metal benches there are really hard. Patricia Thompson approached her daughter, examining her quickly. Muscle strain from prolonged poor posture. Common in children who spend a lot of time studying. She looked directly at Williams. Did you physically examine my daughter before making these accusations? She said. Williams tried to defend herself, but each word buried her deeper. That's when Amara delivered her coup de grace. Ms. Williams, would you like to know what else I have recorded? 6 months of your comments about black students. Your unfair grades. Your looks. Your whispers in the hallway. The smartwatch began to play a devastating compilation. These parents never even keep track of their children. No matter how hard you try, the result is always the same. Some families just don't value education. Robert Thompson crossed his arms, his voice now icy. My daughter is 12 years old and has an IQ of 160. She skipped 2 grades not because of privilege, but because of merit. And for 6 months, she systematically documented the racism she suffered at the school that was supposed to protect her. Williams realized, too late, that she had completely underestimated who she was dealing with. Amara was not a victim. She was a brilliant strategist who had turned every insult, every prejudice, every moment of discrimination into ammunition for a war Williams didn't even know she was fighting. Dr. Martinez rose slowly. Ms. Williams, you are dismissed for the rest of the day. There will be a disciplinary hearing tomorrow. But Amara had one last surprise. Dr. Martinez, may I ask you something? Ms. Williams said that families like mine came from nothing. My great-grandparents built 3 schools in the rural community where they were born. My grandparents were the first black doctors in town. My parents have 4 college degrees between them. Where exactly do you think we came from? Williams tried to leave the room, but Amara wasn't finished. You also said I'm an untouchable princess. I volunteer at my mom's hospital every Saturday. I teach math to kids in the community every Sunday. What part of that is untouchable? As Williams staggered toward the door, defeated and exposed, Amara calmly looked at the adults in the room. For 6 months, she had endured humiliation and prejudice, documenting everything with the patience of a scientist collecting data. Now finally, it was time to show that underestimating a Thompson was the most costly mistake anyone could make. What Williams didn't know yet was that the real storm was just beginning, and that a 12-year-old girl was about to teach the entire American education system a lesson about consequences that would echo far beyond the walls of that school. The next morning, Williams arrived at school with red eyes and trembling hands. She had spent the entire night trying to find a way to reverse the situation, but each attempt at an explanation sounded more desperate than the last. The hearing room was packed. Dr. Martinez presided over a table with 5 members of the school board, including the district superintendent, Dr. Helena Rodriguez. Across from him, Williams sat alone. Her union had refused to defend her after hearing the preliminary recordings. Ms. Williams, Dr. Martinez began in a solemn voice, these are extremely serious charges. Systematic racial discrimination, false accusations of child abuse, and inappropriate conduct with a minor. Amara sat between her parents, wearing the same smartwatch that had been her secret weapon for months. But now, connected to a projector, it would become the tool of Williams' total destruction. I would like to begin with a defense, Williams stammered, rising unsteadily. This child, this family, they orchestrated all of this to harm me. I am the victim of a trap. Dr. Thompson leaned forward, his voice sharp as steel. A trap? My daughter has documented 6 months of systematic racism. That's not a trap, It's investigative journalism. She's a manipulative child. Williams exploded, completely losing his composure. Don't you understand? That family thinks they're better than all of us. They think they're untouchable. And it was at that moment that Amara smiled. Dr. Rodriguez, the girl said calmly, can I show you exactly how Ms. Williams treats students based on the color of their skin? The projector turned on, and Williams' voice echoed through the room. These parents never even keep up with their kids. Michael, are you sure you wrote this essay yourself? It seems very advanced for someone like you. Williams turned pale. That's out of context. But Amara continued, methodically. This is from last week, teacher. Angela, a black student with a 9 grade point average, asking about the science project. New recording, Angela dear, maybe you should choose something simpler. Not all of us are born to be scientists, you understand? It's important to know our limitations. And this, Amara continued relentlessly, is from the conversation you had with Professor Collins about me. That Thompson girl thinks she's a genius just because her parents have money. But intelligence can't be bought. You know how it is with these families. Williams tried to get up, but Dr. Martinez stopped her with a gesture. Sit down. We're not done. Amara had saved the best for last. Dr. Rodriguez, would you like to see how Professor Williams really reacted when she thought she had found a way to destroy my family? The audio from the previous day began to play, with Williams practically celebrating, finally. This perfect family has its dirty secrets. I'm going to call all my contacts in the press. Imagine the headlines. The silence in the room was deafening. Williams had bent over the table, her hands covering her face. Ms. Williams, Dr. Rodriguez said in an icy voice, in 30 years of education, I have never witnessed such deplorable conduct. Not only did you demonstrate systematic racial prejudice, you attempted to use a 12-year-old child as a tool to satisfy your own frustrations. I'm not racist, Williams whispered, tears streaming down her face. I thought I was protecting a child. Protecting. Dr. Thompson stood up, his presence dominating the room. You recorded our 12-year-old daughter asking invasive questions about alleged sexual abuse. You called social services without any physical evidence. You tried to destroy our family based purely on your prejudices. Dr. Rodriguez addressed the Thompson family. On behalf of the school district, I apologize for the unacceptable treatment your family has received. But Amara had not yet delivered her final checkmate. Dr. Rodriguez, there is something else I would like to show you. The girl paused dramatically. During these 6 months, I have created a detailed profile of racism at our school. Not just from Ms. Williams. The projector displayed a meticulously organized spreadsheet, dates, times, teachers' names, direct quotes, and even graphs showing disparities in grades between black and white students at the school. My God, murmured one of the board members. This is a complete academic investigation. At age 12, Dr. Thompson added with barely concealed pride, my daughter conducted field research on institutional racism that would impress any sociologist. Williams finally understood the magnitude of what she had faced. This was not just a spoiled child. This was a brilliant mind that had turned every insult, every microaggression, every moment of contempt into concrete data for her own destruction. Ms. Williams, Dr. Martinez announced, you are officially terminated for cause. Your benefits are cancelled, and a permanent note will be added to your professional record. No school in this district, or any district that consults our records, will ever hire you again. Dr. Rodriguez added the final blow. In addition, we are referring this case to the State Department of Education. Your teaching license will be permanently revoked. Williams staggered out of the room, defeated and destroyed. In the hallway, other teachers looked away. Her reputation had been annihilated not only by her actions, but by the masterful way a 12-year-old girl had orchestrated her downfall. As the Thompson family prepared to leave, Amara turned to Dr. Martinez. Doctor, may I make a suggestion? Perhaps the school needs training on implicit bias. I would be happy to help develop the program. Dr. Martinez smiled, a genuine, respectful smile. Amara, it would be an honor to have your help. As they left the school, Dr. Thompson put his hand on his daughter's shoulder. How did you keep your cool for so long? How did you plan all this? Amara smiled with a wisdom that transcended her age. Dad, you always taught me that the best revenge is success. I just added that sometimes success includes showing people exactly who they really are. In the parking lot, Williams watched the family from afar, finally understanding that he had underestimated not just a child, but a force of nature disguised as a 12-year-old student. That girl had turned every moment of racism into ammunition, every insult into evidence, and every attempt at humiliation into the systematic construction of her own revenge. And most devastating of all was that Williams couldn't even claim she had been wronged. Every word, every action, every moment of prejudice had been documented with scientific precision by someone she never imagined capable of such stratagem. As the Thompson family drove away, leaving behind a ruined teacher and an educational system that would be forced to confront its own demons, one question remained. What happens when an entire community discovers that a 12-year-old child was able to expose truths that adults had chosen to ignore for decades? 6 months later, Amara Thompson was on the main stage of the city's convention center, receiving the Young Civil Rights Activist Award. At 12, she had become the youngest person in history to receive such an honor. This girl not only exposed racism in our school, the mayor declared into the microphone, she created a model for how to combat injustice in an intelligent and systematic way. In the audience, her parents beamed with pride as Amara adjusted the microphone. "Thank you for this award," she said with the same calm she had used to destroy Williams. "But I would like to dedicate it to all the children who suffer in silence. You don't have to accept injustice just because you're small." Outside the convention center, in a cheap apartment across town, Williams watched the speech on television. His hands trembled as he held a cup of cold coffee. 6 months of unemployment had taken their toll: gray hair, deep dark circles under his eyes, clothes that hadn't been changed in days. The phone rang once again. It was the 16th job rejection that week. "I'm sorry, but after checking your references, we won't be able to proceed with your application," said the voice on the other end of the line before hanging up abruptly. Williams looked at the pile of unpaid bills on the table. Amara's case had gone viral on social media, turning her into the most hated racist teacher in the country. Her photo appeared in memes with the caption, "How Not to Be an Educator." Universities used her case in lectures on institutional bias. On television, Amara continued, "I learned that documenting injustices is not paranoia, it's preparation. Every recording, every print, every piece of evidence becomes a powerful tool in the right hands." The program went on to show the reforms implemented in the school district after the scandal. Mandatory diversity training, anonymous reporting systems, and cameras in classrooms. Amara had been a consultant in the creation of all these protocols. Williams turned off the television in anger, but the silence was worse. In the silence, she heard echoes of her own words, "Families like yours, who came from nothing," words that now haunted her daily. Meanwhile, Amara returned home to find a surprise. Dozens of letters from children across the country, telling their own stories of discrimination at school and asking for advice on how to respond. "Dad," she said, leafing through the letters, "I think we need to create an official organization to help these children." Dr. Thompson smiled. "My daughter, you are 12 years old and already thinking like a CEO." "It's just that I've learned something important," Amara replied, carefully putting each letter away. "When someone tries to put us down because of our color, our age, or our background, they are actually giving us an opportunity. The opportunity to show exactly what we are capable of." 3 months later, the Amara Thompson Foundation was officially launched, offering legal support and guidance to children who are victims of school discrimination. The first case they took on involved an indigenous child at a rural school, and Amara personally trained the parents on how to effectively document evidence. Williams, meanwhile, had moved to another state, but even there her reputation followed her like a shadow. She worked briefly as a substitute teacher at schools where no one knew her story. But invariably someone recognized her, and her identity spread like wildfire. At one of these schools, an 8-year-old black child looked her straight in the eye and asked, "Are you the racist teacher from the internet?" The innocent question echoed down the hallway, and Williams realized she would never escape the legacy she had created for herself. That night, she wrote a letter she would never send. "Dear Amara, you taught me that underestimating a child because of their color is the most costly mistake an adult can make. I have paid that price and will continue to pay it for the rest of my life." While Williams struggled with the consequences of her choices, Amara thrived. At 13, she had already been a speaker at 3 universities, a consultant on 2 documentaries about racism in schools, and a mentor to dozens of young activists. "You know what's ironic?" she said during an interview on local TV. "Ms. Williams wanted to humiliate me, but she ended up giving me the perfect platform to show the whole world who I really am." The interviewer smiled. "And who are you really, Amara?" "I'm a 13-year-old black girl who learned that the best revenge isn't to destroy those who hurt you, it's to build something so great that they spend the rest of their lives wondering how they were foolish enough to underestimate you." Amara Thompson's story became legendary. A lesson in how to turn prejudice into power, discrimination into determination, and injustice into inspiration. She proved that sometimes the biggest mistake anyone can make is to give ammunition to the wrong person. Williams tried to destroy a child, but ended up destroying only herself. Amara learned that true revenge is not to repay the damage suffered, it is to achieve success that your enemies could never imagine. And if you also believe that intelligence and determination can overcome any prejudice, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that underestimating someone can be the most costly mistake of your life.